Hello everyone, welcome to Diplomatic Brief. Let me quote a few comments from Western politicians about China-US relations. Some Western politicians have said that, whether in the past, present or future, China will always be a wealthy and powerful country and an important factor in geopolitics. Our job is to find opportunities to cooperate with China. I think I have always had a pretty good impression of China. A few words. Can you guess which American official said them? Maybe most of you would not have guessed. It was actually said by Secretary of State, who has been at the forefront of anti-China sentiment in recent years. On December 19th, as the top US diplomat, Secretary of State expressed this attitude toward China-US relations during a roughly 2-hour year-end press briefing. He also said that both China and the US are mature enough to recognize that there will always be points of friction now and in the foreseeable future. Our job, as part of responsible governance, is to look for opportunities to cooperate, because I believe that when facing global challenges, China and the US can work together to respond. While serving as a US senator, he had previously hyped up and manipulated issues related to Xinjiang and Hong Kong, repeatedly attacking China on these matters. He was twice placed on China's sanctions list. At the confirmation hearing this January, Rubio even described China as a powerful and dangerous near-peer military rival. However, at the press briefing on December 19th, he denied that the US must choose between supporting regional allies and establishing effective relations with China. When talking about his own change in stance, Rubio stated bluntly that he is unafraid. He said, "I represent the president. I believe we've already made good progress with China. I think I've always had a fairly positive attitude toward China, at least on the working level where we must cooperate with them." He described that he used to have a different job, but now his job is to represent the United States in conducting diplomacy. When asked about the recent tensions between China and Japan, then I said, the United States can absolutely maintain its partnership with Tokyo while also finding productive ways to cooperate with the Chinese government. Foreign media analysis suggests that this position stands in stark contrast to that of his predecessor Blinken, who, before stepping down, warned that China poses a systemic challenge to the international order. Currently, in addition to serving as the US Secretary of State, he also holds the position of National Security Advisor under President Trump. At the press briefing, he deliberately avoided referencing his predecessor, Secretary of State Blinken, who had frequently described China as a pressing threat to the United States. Instead, he emphasized the need to manage bilateral relations with responsible governance and a mature approach. In contrast, Rubio deliberately shifted the focus of the threat. He shifted the focus from the Pacific region to the Western Hemisphere and the vulnerabilities of American industries themselves, viewing transnational criminal and terrorist organizations in Latin America as the most urgent security threats. He also described the United States' reliance on external supply chains as a critical threat and believes that the top priority for 2026 is to rebuild the domestic industrial base. Foreign media believe that Rubio's remarks on China have become more pragmatic, avoiding labeling China as a threat. This is clearly different from his previous stance and also differs from the rhetoric of the previous administration, highlighting his significant shift from a hardline hawk on China to a pragmatic diplomat. His transformation is highly consistent with his boss Trump's recent implementation of a G2-style diplomacy. After the summit held in Busan, South Korea in October, Trump has repeatedly referred to the Chinese side with words like respectable and friend. To put it simply, first, American politicians are not really noble guardians of ideals. People like Rubio are just following their boss, Trump's ideas. Their own attitude toward China doesn't matter. When serving as senators in order to win votes, they act more radical than the Democrats to compete for votes. But when it comes to serving in the cabinet, when it's just a job, then they act according to the preferences of the White House boss, trying to win Trump's blessing and support for their own run for the next president or vice president. All that talk about fighting for democracy for others? So-called authoritarianism is nothing more than a slogan for their own advancement. Second, what made Trump and Rubio change wasn't that they suddenly became friendly toward China. It's just that after fighting and realizing they couldn't win, they backed down and turned to target those weaker countries instead. Third, the top leadership in China won't be fooled by the words of these American politicians either. Just look, in the recent US defense budget bill, aside from arms sales to Taiwan, they've also added clauses specifically targeting Chinese leaders. This shows that America's intention to suppress China is far from dead. In addition, aside from economic and trade relations where the US has no advantage, the US has also been showing less and less confidence in diplomacy, often getting flustered. On December 19th, foreign media reported that Chinese companies are helping the Federated States of Micronesia rebuild a World War II-era airport runway, which has raised concerns among wealthy Americans. Some people are taking this opportunity to hype things up, claiming that this project is of great significance and that China's influence in the Western Pacific region is continuously expanding. The Federated States of Micronesia is an island nation located in the Central Pacific, made up of 607 islands of various sizes, with a land area of 702 square kilometers. It is regarded by the West as a strategic handshake point and a key location in the second island chain. Pascal, a non-resident senior fellow at the Washington Foundation for Democracy and Prosperity, posted a video on social media last week showing a remote area in Yap State, Micronesia. Covering 4.5 square kilometers, you can see an airport runway being rebuilt there. In his December 10th post, Pascal wrote that a Chinese company is reconstructing a runway on Walayai Island in Yap State, which dates back to the era of the Japanese Empire. This location is about 965 kilometers from Guam, and the reconstruction is expected to be completed by the end of this month. Currently, at least 2 Chinese companies appear to be involved in the rebuilding work. On May 26 of this year, the reconstruction project for the Walayai Airport runway, undertaken by the Chinese private enterprise Shandong Hengye Municipal Engineering Company Limited, was officially launched. The president of the Federated States of Micronesia, Simina, along with local officials and representatives from Shandong Hengye Municipal Engineering Company Limited, attended the launch ceremony. President Simina pointed out that this project will effectively enhance the capacity and safety of air transportation, promote the construction of transportation infrastructure and the level of connectivity, and help improve local livelihoods. This is an important project for further deepening the friendly and cooperative relationship between China and Micronesia. Shandong Hengye Municipal Engineering Committee stated that they will advance the project construction to high standards, help upgrade the local airport into an aviation hub, and serve the local economic and social development. On October 8th, the official WeChat account of Daeju Pengtong Highway Engineering Limited published an article revealing that their construction management personnel remained on duty during the National Day holiday at the airport runway project in Walayai, Federated States of Micronesia. The situation on site is similar to that in the Marshall Islands and Pohnpei. Micronesia maintains its relationship with the United States through the Compact of Free Association. Under this agreement, the United States provides economic assistance and military support to these 3 Pacific countries. In exchange for protection, the United States obtains exclusive military usage rights over their land, airspace, and territorial waters. The agreement grants the US the right to veto any third country from establishing a military or strategic presence in Micronesia. This makes it impossible for China to use the Walayai airport for dual civilian and military purposes without Washington's consent. Even so, wealthy Americans still do not miss the chance to hype up the issue, as seen with the Heritage Foundation's Allison Center for National Security. Senior researcher Sadler described this runway reconstruction as the latest warning sign, believing that China is systematically undermining the US defense structure in the Pacific. This retired US Navy commander wrote an article in a national security journal on December 10th, stating that it is necessary to launch an investigation to clarify how a Chinese investment involving dual-use facilities could have gone on for such a long time, and was almost pushed forward without any resistance. Reports from foreign media believe that the anxiety on the US side highlights the escalating tug-of-war between the US and China in this resource-rich and strategically significant region as they compete for diplomatic and economic influence. In 2022, China and the Solomon Islands signed a police and security agreement. Then, in February this year, China signed 3 memorandums of understanding with Vanuatu, covering areas such as infrastructure, tourism, technology, and deep deep-sea mineral exploration. Chinese diplomats have repeatedly emphasized this. For years, China has been involved in practical projects in the Pacific region, such as road renovations and construction. China has no intention of engaging in geopolitical competition or seeking so-called spheres of influence. Chinese aid does not come with any political conditions. Currently, the US government has refocused its attention on the Pacific Island nations. According to the US National Defense Authorization Act for fiscal year 2026, the US Department of Defense will cooperate with Micronesia, the Marshall Islands, Palau, and other Pacific Island countries. To leverage its comparative advantages in strategic competition with China, the US has adopted a mindset of geopolitical confrontation. In contrast, China has always maintained an open attitude of cooperation and mutual benefit in collaborations with other countries. In May, China held the third foreign ministers' meeting with Pacific Island countries having diplomatic relations, reaffirming its commitment to deepening a comprehensive strategic partnership based on mutual respect and common development, and promoting an even closer China-Pacific Island countries community with a shared future. Moreover, in November, China signed framework agreements to enhance economic partnerships with several Pacific Island countries, including Micronesia and Kiribati. On December 15th, Vice Foreign Minister Ma Zhaoxu held a collective meeting with representatives from Tonga, Kiribati, Samoa, Vanuatu, Solomon Islands, Fiji, and the Federated States of Micronesia. The Papua New Guinea envoy to China, along with the Pacific Islands Forum representative and envoys from Pacific Island countries to China, thanked China for its long-term support in helping island nations achieve sustainable development. They also expressed willingness to deepen cooperation with China and promote the continuous development of their comprehensive strategic partnership. The conclusion is that for basic infrastructure projects like building bridges and roads, globally, only engineering teams from various parts of China can complete them within budget, smoothly, and with high quality. Even when using American aid, they still have no choice but to award the contracts to Chinese companies, because there simply aren't any alternatives. It seems Washington's worries about China's prosperity may just be the beginning.